Hi, I'm Roby, the producer of this film, Our Wilderness Elk. I have a few notes here. I'll be looking down and reading. I feel that I should give you a rundown on just a little of my adventurous and outdoor life. I was country raised in Oregon, and during the Depression years of the 1920s and 30s, I know the value of wild game of any kind. At an early age of 16, I went into the logging camps as a lumberjack timber faller with a crosscut saw. I followed logging off and on throughout my life. Beginning of World War II, I worked on various construction jobs, shipyards, naval bases, ammo dumps, other hard labor jobs. Also spent some time commercial fishing in Alaska. I spent 18 months as a merchant seaman in the South Pacific war zone. Then 2 years doing Army duty, joining the 11th Airborne Division as a paratrooper and glider trooper doing occupation duty in Japan. I married, we raised a son and daughter. Along with my logging, I was a hunting and whitewater river guide with a lot of experimenting and close calls on the rivers during the 1950s. I started my filming photography in the 1950s, and through trial and error, managed to film some most unusual, true outdoor adventures. I believe in presenting the true facts as I know them. I value our outdoor freedom and our natural resources. All of my films were filmed in the wilds. No parks, no tame animals. Many people consider these films as classics. I have experienced film piracy in several forms. Misprinted prints, impoundment, lost originals, stolen masters, stolen prints. It has been a tough fight being a film producer. This film, Our Wilderness Elk, was filmed during the 1960s. At that time, my most faithful photographer and companion was my teenage son, Elvin. Tragedy struck November the 22nd, 1987, while we were deer hunting. Another hunter shot Elvin Roby through the heart at close range, 40 to 100 feet, with a 150 grain 7mm bullet. Elvin died within a short time. We were working on another film called The Young Sportsman Outdoorsman. We have always been and believed in the freedom of choice on the color of hunting clothing to wear. Now watch for some of my other films in the future that have already got made but haven't transferred them over to video. Now let's take a look at our wilderness elk.
Winter finds our wilderness elk country, a land of vast mountains and forests covered by a blanket of snow. Wilderness elk country can be found throughout the Rocky Mountains into Canada and west to the coastal drainages of our great Pacific Northwest. Elk have a tendency to bunch up in the lowest and warmest winter ranges. This sometimes causes overbrowsing. Because of this, elk must be harvested by hunters in the fall. Everywhere you go in this wilderness elk land, you'll see the bones of elk and deer, a grim reminder of the struggle to live and survive. Elk feed almost entirely on brush and tree browse. The young spring brush shoots will nourish the elk. They will get their strength back very fast. The deer and elk will mingle and lick off the same salt block at the same time. Experienced bush pilots can take you into a few remote landing strips in this wilderness land. Beyond the landing strip, you can go either horseback or afoot. Backpacking will give you the best in close-up beauty and adventure. In the lower spring elk range, the warm May sun will bring the rattlesnakes out of their dens. Fear of rattlesnakes is okay, but don't panic. Even if you are bitten, stay calm, take the necessary precautions, and you'll be all right. Holding the rattler down close to its head with a strong stick makes it safe to stomp its head in with a heavy boot heel. Finding a rattlesnake den can get real lively and interesting. 2 short visits to this den produced 21 rattlesnakes, from baby size to 3-footers. Most adult rattlesnakes shed their rattles along with their skins at least once a year. These rattlers can go for months without eating. There are from 25 to 30 species of rattlesnakes. These snakes are a type of timber rattlesnake. These snakes are quickly prepared for cooking and eating. After cutting the head off, the skin will peel back very easily. Rattlesnake skins make excellent and unusual belts, hat bands, and other items. After washing the clean snake, it is set to soak overnight in salted water. Before cooking, the snake is rinsed again. This method gives best results. One way of preparing snake meat is with strips of bacon, butter, and seasoning. Wrapped in foil, it is ready for the coals. Most of the meat of a rattlesnake lays along the backbone, rather like a tenderloin. Rattlesnake meat is nice, clean white meat. It resembles very much the breast meat of a chicken. It is a rare delicacy. There is a tremendous variety of wildflowers blooming continuously throughout the wilderness region. From early spring throughout the summer, flowers, bushes, and grasses bloom, then go to seed. One of the most interesting plants is bear grass, claimed by many people to have no value. The tender base shoots are edible, having a sweet, piney taste. Mice and other rodents are especially fond of the roots of bear grass and will make their winter home among these roots. Another interesting plant is the camas. For hundreds of years, the Indians native to these regions have used this plant for food. The Indians would dry the roots, then pound them into a flour-like powder. This was used in cooking. After being peeled, the root may be eaten as it is. The tender side shoots are also good. Camas tastes like flour paste without any salt. For wilderness survival, there are dozens of plants and shrubs that can be eaten. As spring advances, the elk gradually get their strength back, feeding on the spring vegetation. You know the first early calf elk are about to arrive. The bears also know the early calf elk are starting to arrive. In their hungry condition, they kill many spring calf elk. Bear will spend hours searching the brushy hillsides and meadows for the newborn calves. After coming out of hibernation in the spring, bears are so hungry they will eat anything they can find. The hungry bear will sneak around and find the calf when the cow leaves it alone. In the more open areas of the spring elk range, you can easily spot a bear at quite a distance. At 300 yards, the black bear makes a small target. An offhand one-shot kill at this range is top marksmanship. At long range, it is good practice to take a solid rest for a one-shot kill. You can also hunt these bear with the aid of good bear hounds. After a hard morning of bear hunting, a midday rest is welcome. All too soon, it's time to get up and get going. Long-range shooting can easily end up with a crippled bear. This is where good bear dogs come in handy. Bear really should be hunted in the fall, when both meat and trophy are worth going after. The fast-growing velvet antlers are a soft, bony material with a smooth velvet skin over the outside. The new horns are usually full-grown by the 1st of July. Bull elk bugle quite a lot in the spring. They can be heard in the months of April, May, and June. This spring bugling is a warning signal that some intruder is around. Elk are sometimes called wapiti. There are 3 kinds of elk: the Rocky Mountain elk, the Roosevelt or Olympic elk, and the dwarf elk called the Tule or California elk. By 1900, the elk in the eastern United States had been exterminated. Small herds have been reestablished in some areas. Probably one of the most interesting inhabitants of this wilderness elk country is the blue grouse. It is interesting to watch and hear these grouse during the mating season. This occurs during the spring months. The antics of the male grouse while courting are amusing. The hooting of the bull grouse is like the sound of a far-off hoot owl. These bull grouse will strut and hoot for hours. By spending enough time, you can mock or imitate these birds and call them in close to you. You can work your way in close to the mother hen grouse when she has a brood of chicks hidden in the grass. She will stand her ground in the face of danger. If you get in too close to her little chicks, the hen grouse will flare up, fly at you, and try to lead you away from her brood. The hen grouse talks continuously to her chicks, warning them to stay hidden. It is almost impossible to see the little chicks in the grass. They will come out Only upon a signal from their mother, the chicks grow up rapidly and learn to fly while still very young. There are many natural mineral licks in our wilderness elk land. The elk will stay bunched close to these natural licks during the spring months. They become very nervous at any unusual sound or movement, and many barks and squeals come from the milling herd. With the right kind of equipment, backpacking can be fun. It's hard work, but it's worth it. A poncho makes a good body and pack cover while walking. It gives shelter at night. When you're backpacking a heavy load and crossing a swift mountain stream of any size, you should always use a stout pole on the upstream side. This will give quicker recovery if you slip on the rocky bottom. A remote, mysterious grave is a reminder of early day trappers and prospectors. Very few of these graves are marked. The wilderness elk area holds many such mysteries. In recent years, the Forest Service has adopted a policy of burning nearly all old trappers' cabins, emergency shelters, and unmanned lookouts. In July and August, you will find the high mountain lake country a land of solitude and beauty. Bull elk will spend their summer months rubbing the velvet off their antlers. This thicket shows evidence that a bull elk has spent a lot of time here. A fisherman can really enjoy catching a mountain lake cutthroat trout. There are several kinds of trout that can be caught in the high mountain lakes. This yearling cow moose is using her sharp hooves to cut the mossy grass loose from the bottom of the lake. She swims around to pick it up when it floats to the surface. The lake bottom moss and grass is a favorite food of the moose. Most moose will hold their heads under the water and feed off the bottom. This little cow is using a different technique. The lonesome yearling will sometimes follow you and will bed down close to your camp. In late August, you are awakened by that old familiar sound, the bugle of a bull elk. When you get in close, you must stay hidden in one spot and let the bull come to you. You answer his bugle more quickly as he works in closer. Usually, it is easier to call them in before they have collected any cows for their harem. A prime trophy bull with the largest antlers will be a 4 or 5-year-old. The elk hunters are really out after elk, but may end up with another highly rated trophy. A cougar or mountain lion is very seldom seen unless the hunter is using dogs. Cougars slip around, sly and quiet. They are curious and like to watch you, but chances are very few that you will ever see them. There's another kind of elk hunter, the one who shoots first and looks later. This nice 2-year-old bull moose was shot right here in the middle of a mountain road. In fear of penalty, some hunter, instead of butchering the animal out, left it here. No matter when you kill your elk, it must be butchered out as soon as possible. It should be laid open for cooling immediately. The quicker you can get the hide off any wild game, the better the meat will be. Even if you made a late evening kill and have to stay out overnight, the animal should be properly butchered. Hundreds of pounds of wild meat is spoiled every year because hunters fail to take proper care of their game. Wild meat is best eaten after it's hung in the open air from 4 to 7 days. If the weather is stormy, the meat should be covered and kept dry. By the middle of October, the hunting season is well underway. It is good to have a camp cook who can handle the 30-30 carbine to take care of the prowling bear.
This was the finishing shot. These scenes illustrate that during a woman's menstrual period, a boar bear's keen sense of smell will cause them to hang around. At menstrual time, a boar bear can sometimes be dangerous, especially the grizzly bear.
This medium-sized black bear had been raiding the hunting camp for several days and finally met his match. You don't have to shoot game to enjoy a hunting trip. Many people just enjoy being out of doors. It is very important to know how to track a wounded animal. If you trail an elk or deer too soon after wounding it, you may have to chase it for miles and still not get a chance to finish the job. Wounding any big game animal, it is good practice not to bother the animal for several hours. This will give it a chance to lay down. It will become weak and you will be able to get in close. You can tell how badly an animal has been hit when you find a place where it has lain down to rest. The young cow isn't far away now. It is not a pleasant job to finish off a wounded or sick animal. A young cow elk is one of the most choice kinds of wild meat. Probably the most widely used by all elk hunters is the knife and hatchet combination. A little light, well-balanced hatchet like this is very handy and useful. A fresh blanket of snow makes really good elk hunting. A sudden wet snowstorm will drive the elk out of the thick brushy patches into the open. A snow of this nature may melt within 2 or 3 days. The pack string or pack horse is the most widely used method of getting into remote country. Even the pack horse is limited in usefulness on many big game hunts. Old Penny has well earned a nice crisp apple as her reward. The land of our wilderness elk has been invaded by man. New dams and road construction in our wilderness elk country leave us wondering where progress ends and conservation begins. Faced by man's progress, increased hunting pressure, and the natural hazards of their wild, remote country, let us hope that our wilderness elk survive for future generations.